ability to use your time in the most effective way possible. So first impressions. I have 3 questions that I ask. And again, like I said, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask at any point. But the questions that I ask is, number 1, who do you want to attract? Now, this is really important because when we're talking about who do you want to attract, I ask this question, and I'm going to ask for audience participation through the Zoom chat channel. Is your ideal client, or is your ideal client a single individual, or is your ideal client a group of individuals? So how many people think that it's a group of individuals?
I don't know if they can see the chat. Jeanette,
okay.
can you see the chat? Or Lynn, can you see the chat?
You have to actually for me, I'm on an iPad. I just have to touch the upper corner and then I can pull it up.
Okay.
And I actually have it here. Nobody's actually responding, so that's why I was curious.
So yeah, here's chat.
So what I say to people is that you have to think about, and I'll just say that a lot of people think that it's a group of individuals. And what they mean is that they are looking at 35-year-olds who are making $50,000, and there's lots of people that happen to be their ideal client. That's who they want to attract. Okay, and I'm seeing people.
Yeah,
I believe it's an individual. There
Eric
you go.
Ness is up in the Federal Way, area.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Good. Yeah.
And so is Shelly. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I agree. You're absolutely right. It is one single individual. The reason that I say this is that if you think about your clients as a dartboard, every single possible place that you throw a dart is a client. But the very center, the very quark, the smallest fraction or the smallest element known to man, the smallest particle, the quark in the very center of the dartboard is the one individual who's your ideal client. Your ideal client can't be more than one person. If you try to have messaging that fits Lynn and you have messaging that tries to fit me, you're not really going to be able to hit Lynn or myself. You might start talking to Lynn and mention something about the Oregon Ducks, and him being a Husky, that's not going to go over very well, and you're possibly going to have to overcome a lot of objections.
It'll make me giggle.
So your ideal, what's that?
It'll make me giggle.
There you go. So your ideal client is one person. And this is really important because you want to make sure that that ideal client is, you know exactly who it is. I oftentimes will ask people, what kind of shoes does your ideal client wear? And people go, well, it depends. There's many different varieties, because it could be a construction worker, it could be this. I'm going, no, you're one person. You can say during the day they wear expensive Jimmy Choos, and then at home they wear slippers. You want to be very specific about who you're trying to attract. Second, how do you want to come across? When you're out in networking circles, how do you want to come across? Does anyone have any suggestions? Since chat's working, I'll let people say, how do you want to come across when you're actually out networking?
And there is a time delay, Luke, just so you know.
Oh, I completely understand. No problems.
Oh, Alan says open, friendly, knowledgeable. Tim says as an expert in my field. Shelley says professional, but approachable and believable. Lynn says sharp and professional. I'm sorry, Lynn. Oh, you are sharp. I think it's Vivek says trustworthy and knowledgeable. Eric, approachable, professional. Deborah, prepared. Wow,
Perfect.
you're getting a lot of great.
There's a lot of variety there, and that is awesome. How do you want to come across? Okay, so I'm going to do a visualization exercise, and this is the first time that I've actually done this. So if you guys can help, close your eyes, and I want you to think of men that are in these different types of professions. And actually, I'm hearing it now. Somebody, I think there might be somebody that has a volume going on. I'm not sure who it is.
Okay.
So I want you guys to close your eyes, and I want you to think about men in these variety of professions. Can everyone picture a male financial advisor? I'm just going to give a second for everyone to get that accurate picture of a male financial advisor in their mind. Okay. Second, a male computer technician, a man who actually fixes computers. Okay, now here's the third one. This will be the last one. I want everyone to picture a man who's a plumber. Does everyone have pictures in your mind about those three individuals? So do they all look the same? No. No. Do they all look professional? Well, this is where I normally joke and I say, well, maybe the financial advisor and the computer tech looks professional. Sometimes if you're visualizing a male plumber, you might not think about the most professional looking plumber that might have come into your house. But at the same time, you could actually see the difference. And then the third question, so I want to put that on hold for a second. The third question is, what does your ideal client expect? What does your ideal client expect? This is really important. I'm in Portland. I used to be a financial advisor. And before I went into marketing and stuff, I was helping people with their, how do I go? There we go. I was helping people with their retirement accounts. I was helping people with their investments and things like that. The problem is that I had some clients over in Eastern Oregon. Eastern Oregon has a lot of farmers, a lot of ranchers. They're not urbanites. They're very rural. They did not trust people in suits and ties. What your ideal client expects from you is really important, because if somebody doesn't trust somebody in a suit and tie, then you can't wear a suit and tie if you want to build trust. And it's something that's very important to understand. What does your client expect? Another example that I have of this is most people have hired a plumber at one point in their life. When you hire a plumber, if they actually pulled up and the van said, Joe's Plumbing, and they knocked on the door and you opened the door up and they were in a 3-piece Armani suit with a red power tie, would you let them help you fix your toilet? Probably not. So the thing is that if by chance somebody doesn't look the part, you don't have quite as much trust, and you might not let them actually do their job. Does that make sense to everyone?
Absolutely.
So what I do with first impressions, and I guess here's the other question, and I'm going to I'll give you guys a little bit of a time for delay. How long does it take to make a first impression?
Oh, I know.
I know you and Lynn both know.
Yeah. So
Okay,
I'll
seconds.
hold up.
Well, Alan, what I'll say is, Alan, how many? Okay, so Shelly says 2 seconds.
Oh, good.
Jeanette says seconds. Tim said 7. Deborah says immediately. So studies have found, and thank you very much, and this is perfect, 3 to 5 seconds. 3 to 5 seconds to make a first impression. Because it takes a second, you look at them, and then your brain processes. Still, 3 to 5 seconds is not a lot of time. So what I do when I go out to a room is I actually will go into a room. There could be 300 people, there could be 50 people, and I will scan the room and give every single person 3 to 5 seconds. At that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assess them, and I'm going to categorize them in 3 categories. Now, this is where the rocket science takes into effect. I classify them as A's, as B's, and as C's. A's are the people that I must talk to. They're my ideal client. They look the part. They actually are looking at there might be something about them. I just want to actually go talk to them. Those are my top priorities. Those are my A's. Then I have a group of people that will be my B's. After I've talked to all my A's, I will talk to the B's. And then the last group is C's. The C people is when I might talk to them if they come talk to me, but I'm not going to go search them out. Does that make sense to everyone? Absolutely. So basically you're taking care of your time. If you have a large room of people, you're not going to necessarily be able to talk to every person in the room because you might only have 3 hours and there's 300 people there. So what you want to do is you want to maximize your time. You want to narrow down the A's, the B's, and the C's to help you find your ideal client or possibly your ideal power partner, whoever you're looking for at that particular event. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yes. Can we stop, see if anybody has any questions there?
Sure, absolutely.
So if you have any questions, go ahead and write them out. Makes sense, Shelley says, okay.
And if anyone has questions throughout my presentation, Lynn and Becky are going to be watching that, and they don't have any problems stopping me or interrupting me. And
Right.
We know
they actually
Luke,
like it. Were you going to say something, Lynn?
No, I was just, I needed to scroll. I hadn't caught up with the comments. It wasn't scrolling automatically, so I didn't realize you had comments.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So if there's no questions, I'm going to go on to the next piece. Introduction and first contact. Introduction and first contact is once you've identified the people, the A's, the B's, the C's, you're going to go up to the A's and you're going to have you're going to go up and go, hey Lynn, how you doing? What do you do, Lynn? And you're going to start talking about them.
Mhm.
I actually make it so that 2 to 3 minutes is the maximum of an introduction and first contact. A lot of people actually tell me, well, my sales manager, my company owner said, go out and network and go get some clients, go sell. Networking events are not for selling. Networking events are to find out whether or not you have some type of connection, if they have a need, whatever it might be, and then you can do something else. You can set up another meeting. You can actually get together later. A networking event is 2 to 3 hours. Maybe it's 4 or 5. It might only be an hour. It's a limited amount of time that you want to try to make sure you contact as many people as possible so that you have some prospects. Networking is not about selling. It's about identifying people that might need your products or services. The maximum time, I actually say 2 to 3 minutes. The maximum time that I say that you should do it is 5 minutes. If they have a lot of questions for you, you don't want to ever be rude, but the thing is that you want to make sure that you're maximizing your time. So maximum 5 minutes, but I try to keep everything within 2 to 3.
And you're helping them maximize their time too. If they look back and get stuck with one person, they'll feel like they didn't have a good meeting. So you're helping them.
Absolutely. Some people are like Lynn and Becky, and they're very much, and if you don't know Lynn and Becky, you won't get this, but a lot of you probably do. They're wallflowers, and they don't actually go out and talk to many people. So they're sitting there and they'll talk to one person for 3 hours with no problem.
I didn't know
if you
Lynn
get
was
Lynn,
like that.
if you
I'm
get
horrible.
Lynn like that, trust me, you want to actually escape.
Yeah.
No, the thing is that there's a lot of people that are new to networking, and there's perceptions out there that, well, if someone's talking to me, it's rude to actually go talk to somebody else. But the thing is that what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're valuing your time. Networking is a business activity. When you're doing business activities, you want to maximize the profitability, the return on your investment, and time is money. So you never want to be rude, but the thing is that 2 to 3 minutes, and then you go on to something else. 3/4 of that time, 2 to 3 minutes. So let's say 2 minutes. 3/4 of that time, 1.5 minutes, is talking about them. You're finding out whether or not Lynn is a Husky fan or if he truly has a duck in his heart. You're finding out
In
what
my
he
oven.
can do. You can find out what they do. You find out about where they're actually going with their business, who their ideal client is. You want to make sure you find out about them. Okay, so I'm going to have another question, so prepare your chat. I want people to answer this question for yourself. Do you know what you do? Does Becky know what Becky does? Does Lynn know what Lynn does? Do you know what you do? I'm getting great answers. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Except from Alan.
Alan only some of the time. There's one of those in every crowd, Alan.
Well, Alan, I just have to say this. Alan. You're very much like Becky. That's okay. Okay, so in this particular case, why do you have to talk about what you do? You already know it. You don't know about the other person. So when you actually are talking to Lynn and you're finding out about Banca Merchant Management and what in the heck does Banca mean, you're finding out about them so that you have an opportunity to try to build trust. Like I said, 3/4 of the time should be on them. 1/4 of the time, you can succinctly tell them what you do in a fraction of the time it takes you to find out about what they do. Does that make sense to everyone?
That's
So
a mark of a good networker. If you can boil it down and be succinct, you're going to come across as a stronger professional than somebody who rambles.
Well, and actually, I will tell you this, especially with I Take the Lead, and if you aren't in I Take the Lead, talk to Becky because there's some opportunities there as well. But in I Take the Lead, you have your 1-minute commercial. Your 1-minute commercial, sometimes it's only 30 seconds. You tell everything about what you do, who you're looking for, and what you really want to accomplish. Boom. You do that in 30 to 45 seconds every single week. Okay, I got a message from Jeanette. At the same time, they're trying to spend 3/4 of the time learning about you, right? It depends. Thank you, Jeanette. It depends. If by chance you have 2 experienced networkers, it's probably going to be a 50-50 split. So you have 2 minutes. It's going to be a minute of them talking about you and a minute of you talking about you. Oh, sorry. Them talking about them, you talking about you. So that actually will be the situation. I'm talking about most people at networking events are not necessarily there thinking about it as a business opportunity. They're new to networking. They're going out having a drink. They're going out to actually try to get business. And you can ask Lynn, Becky, and anyone who's done networking for years. You'll see people at chamber meetings. You'll see people at mixers. You'll see people at alumni associations. And you will see them starting to pull out their flip charts to actually give you all the information on the newest and greatest opportunity that they're actually trying to sell. That's not the time and place. So again, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're very succinct. You ask them questions about them. And oftentimes, if you start talking about them, what you're going to do is you're going to ask them certain questions that will lead them to understand about what you want to find out about them. So when I'm actually talking to Lynn, I might be asking him about, so what kind of marketing strategies are you employing to actually attract new clients? Because he had actually just mentioned that he's trying to attract new clients. So you can phrase questions that will lead into responses you might give in your little about yourself. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yep.
Use your intuition. This is Becky's favorite part. She loves this part. I happen to have a BS degree in accounting. I will say emphasis on the BS.
I've got a BS degree too. It's in BS. So.
Lynn, myself, and Becky, if you were to put us on a stage and you were saying, Becky, can you give us a 30-second or a minute-and-a-half commercial on being a real estate agent, a financial advisor, a credit card processor, a construction individual, a computer tech, a business broker? All 3 of us could give you, we could BS our way through, and it would sound fairly legitimate. And I say fairly legitimate for a minute and a half. We can be very convincing in a minute and a half on any industry. It doesn't matter because we've got a lot of experience and we know a lot of people that have given us keywords and phrases. The problem is that if I was trying to come across as a credit card processor and I was talking to Lynn, which is what Lynn does, credit card processing, I would probably say 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things that might just sound a little off. Use your intuition. One of 2 things is happening. If you have a bad vibe from somebody, number 1, it might be a personality conflict, which if that's the case, they're not your ideal. So, don't waste your time. Number 2, they might be very new in the industry and they're still parroting the information that they're given from their bosses or from what they've read in books or whatever. And third, they might be someone that is not trustworthy, that you do not want to do business with, that will make up whatever they want to make up to actually get you to sign up for something that you may or may not need. So again, use your intuition. And if you have any bad vibes on your intuition, write them off. It's okay. You're not going to burn a bridge. You're not going to be rude. But the thing is that they're not someone you necessarily want to come back into. Does that make sense?
Those are also folks, when they follow up after the networking meeting, are probably going to come across on a hard sell and say things that didn't occur. They might say, oh, we talked about your health problem, even though it might be non-existent. So absolutely, yeah. it happens.
Absolutely. So here's the fun part of our presentation is disengagement strategies. So yeah, Lynn loves this part. I actually utilized Lynn in this part, so this is good. So disengagement. A lot of people have questions. How do I get out of a conversation? I'm having this conversation and the person won't stop talking. And I'm going, oh, so you've been talking to Lynn. But in that particular case,
to the bathroom.
Yes. So disengagement strategies. I disengage from people based on how I reclassify them. So remember when I was talking about first impressions? I actually will take 3 to 5 seconds to determine whether or not I'm going to give 2 to 3 minutes of my time to them. I take to 2 to 3 minutes to determine whether or not how I'm going to act with them in the future. So I reclassify each person. Sometimes you go up to somebody that looks like a financial advisor and they're a computer consultant. Sometimes you go up to a computer consultant and they're a business owner for something else. So this is why you don't always are not 100% on your first impression, but you actually reclassify them after your introduction. I reclassify them as A's, B's, and C's. A's are people that I want to actually take the initiative for. Lynn, it was great talking to you. I think that we have a lot of synergies. I think that it's important that we meet. Do you have your calendar now, or can I call you in the next week to schedule a meeting? Do you see how I took the impetus? It's on me to actually schedule that meeting. It's something that's really important to me. Every single A person that you meet, you need to actually get that meeting scheduled, or you need to call them the next day or in 2 days to actually schedule that meeting.
And express your interest there so they know you're going to call, though. You want to make that connection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then there's the group of people that are B's. With B's, I say, hey, Tracy, it was great talking to you. I think that we have a lot of synergies. I think that we might even have some common clients or some common client types. Is there a possibility that you could reach out to me the next week or two and see what times are available so we can get together? Again, this is someone that I might talk to in 3 or 4 weeks if I don't hear from them. But let me put it on them. If I'm a higher priority to them than they are to me, they might call me the next day, or they might even come back and go, well, actually, I have my schedule right here. Could we schedule a meeting? If they take that impetus, that means that I'm valuable to them. I'm going to take the meeting. Does that make sense to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
The last category is C, and then I'll give you my bonus disengagement strategies that I normally don't have time for. So C, I actually are the people that you do not really think that there's a business opportunity with. But again, I'm going to say this,
now,
you do not want...
Look, will you explain what you mean by business opportunity there? Because people will take that differently.
Okay, no, absolutely.
I know what you mean, but yeah, explain.
Absolutely. So if by chance you heard my A's, I think that we can work together. It can be a power partner that might have similar clients, or it has there's someone that possibly has a need of my products and services. They've expressed it. I want to actually get together with a meeting. B's are people that might be there, but they're like tier 2. C's, I'm a financial advisor and the AvoCare rep came and I have no need for actually AvoCare right at this moment. I don't have a real need to actually meet with that person. And so there's really not a business opportunity. I'm valuing my time to go after the people that are my ideal client. You meet a lot of people in networking that don't fit into your ideal client or your power partner mix. And those are the people that become your C's. Or it could be someone that you've talked with for the last 6 months, really hasn't done any business with you, and you say hi to them, but then you move on to somebody else. When it's a C, you don't want to burn a bridge. Becky, it was great seeing you at the event. You're going to be at the mixer next week, right? I'll look forward to meeting you then and seeing you then.
Sure,
You don't burn a bridge. You don't burn a bridge, but you just actually say, I'll see you at the next networking event. There's no scheduled meeting. You're not asking them for a meeting. But sometimes Becky might actually go, well, Luke, I was listening to some of the things you said, and there might be a need here or there. Can we get together for coffee? Well, at that point, the C might actually change because you might now go, oh, they're possibly a client. You might actually take a different track to that. But as far as your initial conversation in the minute and a half or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, you're actually finding out that they're not your possible ideal client or power partner. So you basically move them and say, we'll see you around next week, next month, maybe even next year, depending on the situation.
That's a lot smoother than mine. I usually yell earthquake and run screaming from the room and then come in through another door.
I've missed your comic relief, Lynn. I've missed your comic relief. So I actually have 3 other disengagement strategies that are kind of funny, but it's like it actually does need to happen sometimes. The first one is sometimes when you disengage, whether you're disengaging as an A, a B, or a C, sometimes the person keeps talking, and they keep talking and talking and talking and talking. And how do you get rid of them without actually going, Lynn, stop it, you're creeping me out, get away from me? You don't want to do that. That actually is rude. You don't ever want to be in a networking situation because it's a business environment. You never want to be rude. So one of the things I say is, Lynn, it was great talking to you. Thank you very much for your time. I actually have to go get a drink at the bar, or I have to go get some food or whatever. It's just trying to actually physically leave the situation. But sometimes they follow you to the bar or to the food or to whatever because they're going, oh, that's a great idea. Let me go too.
We're friends for life.
Yeah.
and then you have to go a little bit more strategic and go, Lynn, this was really great talking to you. I really have enjoyed our conversation. But
you remember the restraining order, don't you?
No, you don't use the restraining order.
Okay.
But, I have to go to the bathroom. But sometimes they follow you to the bathroom. Now, at that point, you're going to use...
is nodding her head. Yes, she's been there.
That happens.
Now, Lynn, that's the time that you actually start thinking about getting the restraining order for the person.
Yeah.
But the thing is that sometimes that happens. It just happens to be a coincidence. They're going, oh, that's a good idea too. So they follow you to the bathroom. It's weird when a guy's following a girl to the bathroom and then they're waiting out until the lady comes out of the bathroom. That's when it gets a little creepy.
Right.
But you can't actually go, Lynn, you're creeping me out. Get away from me.
I usually tell them I've had the combo burrito platter and they're not going to want to follow me in.
Well, they don't follow you in. They wait for you outside.
Yeah, they don't even want to be near the door.
Anyway, the last way, which is an unobtrusive way to actually try to move on from the conversation, is using the brush off. You go to events with other people or you see somebody that you know, and you basically go, oh, there's Chad. I need to go talk to Chad. And Lynn follows you all the way over to Chad, and you kind of do the brush off by introducing Chad to Lynn, and then you leave, and then Chad has Lynn as a problem. That's another way to do it, because sometimes if you're not as experienced in tastefully disengaging, sometimes you can come across as rude. So getting somebody that you know to help you is never a problem. Now, something that Lynn brought up, he has a problem with in his church group because there are some engineer types. You know, the engineer types, the ones that as soon as somebody pays them 1% attention, they're their friend for life and they don't feel comfortable talking to anybody at all. You're the center of their entire universe. We call those the black holes. They actually just suck you in and then you're stuck with them forever. Well, not exactly. It's always good to know a black hole type so that the next time that you go to a networking event, you can let the two of the black hole types actually get into each other's gravitational wells, and they actually will then be friends for life. And you've saved not just you, but the entire room from them. So those
you start
engineer
walking
types,
slowly towards the other one, they'll follow. And they'll disengage and re-engage with each other on their own. And you walk away, they don't know you've left. Trust me.
Lynn is a master at that. But the thing is that it is something to try sometimes if you have those sad puppies that don't actually know how to get away from somebody because they don't have enough social skills. It's a good thing to have in your back pocket to be able to say, okay, I'm going to introduce Lynn to Joe and they will be just fine together.
Yep.
Okay, guys, that was a little bit of fun. I hope you understand the most important piece of this is that when you're disengaging, you reclassify every person you talk to as an A, a B, or a C, and that actually will determine whether you're going to give them more time.
And Luke, you're going to talk about how women can disengage from creepy guys with another part of this talk, aren't you? As far as having somebody there as a safety valve, because I mean that
was the brush off. Yeah. I mean, again, you know, I tell people this, that people disengage from Lynn and I fairly easy because we don't have a lot of clingers that want, especially Lynn. He doesn't have a lot of people that just cling to him. People run away from him most of the time. So he doesn't have these issues. But if especially new, younger, attractive women, they have more people that are more interested in them. And at that point, you have to be very, very effective at disengaging so that you can actually make the most of your networking event, which actually is the next part. Maximize your networking experience.
Before you go on, do you want to see if there are any questions on all the above?
Why don't we see if there's any questions?
I'm gonna collapse this. Will you let me know if you stop seeing everything? Is it okay?
Everything's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna see if I could Okay.
So like I said, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. I'm looking at it. It's off on the right-hand part of my screen, right over Becky's face, so it's perfect. Anyway, if you have questions, feel free to ask. I'll respond to the questions as we go. Okay, so the next part of the presentation is maximize your networking experience. One of the things that I've actually come up with is if you have a room full of people, let's say you're at a networking mixer that has 300 people in the room. There's a couple of big networking mixers in Portland that have 300 to 400 people at a time. And you have 3 hours in the room. So again, I'm going to let you guys answer these questions and we will actually answer those. We'll read them aloud. Sorry, hold on one second. I just had a phone call coming in. I'm going to turn that off. So basically, I'm going to ask you this question. How many people can you meet in an hour at a networking event? How many people can you meet in an hour at a networking event?
I'm a little slower, so I'm 15 to 20.
Oh, an hour, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I can only. Oh, Eric says 40. Holy Toledo! I'm comfortable at 5.
but I try to move around and try to get people talking to each other. So I have a different, at mixers I try to engage other people together and greet people. So it's a different function.
Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back, and the answer was already given in this presentation. And Jeanette, great job. It's almost like you've heard me or something like that. Normally speaking, 15 to 20 an hour is the average. Can you do a little bit more? Maybe, but probably not. 15 to 20 is probably the maximum you're going to do, because if you spend 2 to 3 minutes per person, let's just say 3 minutes per person, in an hour, you actually get 20 people. But then you don't have any time to actually go from place to place. So it's more like 15. If you actually are spending 2 minutes per person, it's more like 20. So that's why you generally do 15 to 20 people an hour, and you're having a 2 to 3 minute conversation with each one of those individuals. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
Good job, Jeanette. Yes, perfect. Now, that's for people like myself, people like Lynn, who are extroverted. When I called him a wallflower, anyone who knows Lynn Gray, he's not a wallflower. Now, that being said, people that know Becky get confused because Becky truly is a wallflower, but she actually has an outgoing personality. She's right. She actually meets 5 to 10 people an hour, because after she spends 2 to 3 minutes, maybe it's 5 minutes as the maximum with that person, she actually has to recharge herself. She has to actually build herself back up, get a little bit of energy, and then she goes out and she meets another person.
I prefer to call it I'm an introvert rather than a wallflower.
Introverts, that's another name as a wallflower, but yes, she's an introvert with extroverted tendencies, but she's really an introvert.
Oh, what is that?
What in the heck was that?
My cat's having a little choking. He's coughing up a fur ball.
Oh, okay.
Okay, nice, Lynn.
Oh, sorry.
So if you can do, let's use round numbers. So if you can do 20 people an hour, we'll just say 20 people an hour because that's a round number. If you have 3 hours, that's 60 people. Well, if you do the math, if there's 300 people in the room, you can personally hit 1/5 of the people. 5 times 6, that's 300. 5 times 60 is 300. So how do I know for sure I'm getting all of my ideal clients? I can't do it. It's not physically possible unless I tag team the event. Why not, if I can get 60 people and Lynn can get 60 people, why not actually get 4 other people that can all meet 60 people, and we go to the event together? I'm looking with the people that I talk to for people that want to go with Lynn, and people that want to go with Becky, and people want to go with the other people in my network. And then they're also looking for people that need my services. At that point, we can touch every person in the room and help maximize the amount of contacts and the amount of ideal clients that you're looking for, so that if they haven't come to my presentation and they're not thinking about how they're coming across, they can actually still come across the way they are and still be identified as one of my ideal clients. Does that make sense to everyone? So tag team the event. But when you do this, there's a caveat. This is really important. And I don't normally say this in my presentations because at this point, Becky's going, time. The caveat is that if you take your 6 closest networking associates, you can't all be together talking the entire time. It's not about talking to them.
Yeah.
It's about going out and meeting new people. If you just happen to bring your 6 closest friends from networking circles and you're sitting around in a circle talking to each other, why'd you go to the networking event? Go out to happy hour instead. What you need to do is you need to really work the 300 people in the room and try to maximize touching every single person that's there.
I will throw out that if somebody's shy and they're new to networking, they can also use this technique. They can grab somebody. It's sort of like a new sales rep cold calling. Ask somebody to go with you and stay with them, and that might get you through your first couple of networking events, and then you can break out on your own. So you can also do that.
And it's great to do that. The point too is make introductions to your team. This is really important.
Yeah.
So basically what happens, and I've done this, and I call this network mentoring. Basically what I do is I go with new people that have not really been networking very much, and I say, hey, Lynn, why don't we go to this networking group together? So I know 30% of the room. I can actually start introducing Lynn to some of the people I already know. Plus, as I meet new people and I see that they're a good fit for Lynn, I'm making introductions to them. Now, what does making introductions to your team do for you? Well, it's amazing. This is an amazing, amazing thing. If by chance you are talking to somebody and you realize that they might need your services, And that's fine. That's great. You're actually scheduling a meeting with them and you're doing all that stuff. Awesome. But you see that they need also Lynn services. They need credit card processing. When you introduce them to Lynn, it strengthens your relationship with Lynn. But more importantly, and this is awesome, what happens is with this new person that you just met, you've just become a networking superstar. You know something that they needed, and you introduced them immediately to the person that they needed to talk to. What did that do for your reputation in the room?
They look at you as
it 100-fold.
They look at you as a networker or a connector who actually listens versus somebody trying to hit quota.
When I'm out at a networking event, I try to make sure that the people I talk to, I can introduce them to one other person. When I'm done with my conversation, after I've set my meeting or after I've classified them to whatever, I actually sometimes even say, hey, Lynn, it's been great talking to you. I'm looking forward to seeing you next Thursday, but who are you looking for? Who do you want to meet today? Because more than often, I know 1 or 2 or maybe even 10 people in the room that person could possibly get to know. I can introduce them, and now I am the networking superstar that everyone wants to know. Once you introduce somebody to somebody else, they're saying, wow, they want to take care of my business needs, whether or not they're getting paid for it. That exponentially raises your stock as a networker. And I've said this multiple times. I've said, don't be rude, don't be a creep, don't burn bridges. In Portland, we have a large networking group, but the networking group is really small. It's like 2 degrees of separation from Cleon. And anyone who knows Cleon Cox will understand that comment. But you don't know who the person you're talking to knows. If by chance you happen to be rude to somebody saying, hey, you're creeping me out, get away from me. Hey, you're a little bit too close to me. You just said something that was really rude. You don't want to burn bridges because that person might know your ideal client. And when you actually get an introduction to them and they talk and go, oh yeah, I have a meeting next week with Luke Adams. Oh, did you hear what Luke said to me the other day? Now you have to overcome those objections. You want to leave every networking experience with neutral to positive responses. Never want to have a negative interaction, or else that's possibly going to jeopardize future business and future relationships. Does anyone have any questions about maximizing your networking experience?
Looks like
that's nice, Rachel. Did you see that? LOL.
Yeah.
I am new, and I know Cleon. Everyone knows Cleon. Just wanted to let everyone know that. So, anyone else have any other questions? I'm going to let that be a delay for a second, so that if they do.
Nope. Deborah says no. This makes so much sense.
Perfect. 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 Follow up. So I've spent 3 to 5 seconds to determine whether I give them 2 to 3 minutes. I spend 2 to 3 minutes to determine whether or not I'm going to give them 45 minutes to an hour. One-on-one meetings is where you're actually going to truly find out whether or not the people are able to be trusted, whether they know what they're doing, and you're going to find out more in depth about what they might need, or also, okay, hold on one quick second. Rachel was just asking a question. She said, how do you handle the large pile of cards that stack up for follow-up?
Which is the next session. You're leading into that.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect timing.
Perfect timing, Rachel. That's great. Actually, it's actually in a follow-up presentation called Become Your Network's Google, because I had a box of 1,000 business cards at one point, and it's like rifling through all those business cards to figure out who I wanted to talk to when I knew who it was. I just had to find it. Was really hard. Basically what that's nice, Deborah. Rachel, she goes, Deborah said, I bring envelopes. One thing I will say is that in networking circles, and this is a networking 101 tip, I tell men and women, make sure that when you're actually giving out business cards, so that you're giving out your business card and you're not giving out somebody else's business cards, make sure you have 2 different pockets, or if you have a purse, 2 different sections in your purse, one that holds your business cards and one that holds everyone else's. It's really important to divide it. You do not want to have you don't want to put all your business cards in one pocket, or else you will get in trouble and you'll end up handing out Lynn's card instead of yours. Binder clips work. That's great. But oh, the class clown. I love it. I'll let Becky read that one.
Oh, belt.
Basically, to get to your point, Rachel, is that I keep all the business cards that I get, whether they're A's, they're B's, or they're C's. I've obviously are going to mark, and it just has to be with like a star or whatever, anyone that I really want to call. When I get home, I actually take those cards, I scan them. There's lots of business card scanners. I scan them into my computer. And for the C's, I may or may not scan them in the computer, but you never know when you might need one of their products and services. So I scan everyone's information into my computer, and then I have it at a finger press. After that, I recycle the business cards. But the most important thing is that, like I was saying before, I spend 2 to 3 seconds to determine whether or not I'm going to give them 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes to determine whether I'm giving 45 minutes to an hour. Again, in one-on-one meetings, whether it be at a coffee shop, your office, their office, wherever it might be, 3/4 of the time, so if you're doing an hour, 45 minutes of that is focused on them. 3/4 of the time is focused on them. You want to find out, what are they looking for? Who is their power partner? What do they really, what niches are they really getting into with their marketing? How are they going to be actually building? What kind of clients do they have that might be a client that you want? These are kind of questions and things that you will go through, and you will get more and more experience on how to hone in on what are the important questions when you're asking somebody face to face. But it's really important to make sure that you're spending the time worthwhile. Time is money. A one-on-one meeting is an hour. You want to make sure that if it's an A prospect, that you're getting them to identify that they need your product and service. You're not going to do that by going, Lynn, you need marketing advice, right? No. You do that by asking questions. And then when it turns around and you start talking about what you're doing, you're going to hit those key points that he's already identified, so that he comes out at the end of the conversation saying, wow, Luke, I need that. I want that. That's going to really help me. Can we have a meeting on that in the near future? Then you go into the sales process. The one-on-one meeting is not a sales process. This is when I'm doing this live, I actually say, okay, everyone raise your hand. And because you're all on mute, I'm going to have you all raise your right hand and say, I swear I will not bring a flip presentation to a one-on-one meeting. It's not a sales opportunity. Yeah. Now, if you have some marketing material that you want to show them certain things, awesome. But you don't want to actually, okay, sorry, I'm seeing some stuff.
No, just keep, because we only got a couple minutes, so go ahead, okay. Keep going, yeah.
This is a really important thing, is that you can give out marketing information so you can actually show them what you do, but it's not about a flip presentation that you're trying to sell to them. So if it's only information, great. If it's a sales presentation, not good, no bueno. The one-on-one meetings is about building a connection with them. The old adage is that you do business with people you know, you like, and you trust. In 2 to 3 minutes, you might get to know somebody a little bit, but you've not built any trust, and you really haven't built any fondness for the person. So it's the one-on-one meeting that starts that process to start building trust, building a friendship, and building whether or not they're going to be able to do business with you in the future. And the last thing is proactively introduce your network. every single meeting I have, I actually try to actually refer Lynn or Becky or anybody else that I know to that person. The more people that that person use, not me, the more people that that person uses that I've introduced them to, the more likelihood they will be a long-time advocate. And when they need my products and services, they're going to actually come and talk to me because they're already coming to me when they need anything. It's really important.
You also establish yourself as a networker, and that way when somebody comes up with something, they may not remember that introduction, but they're going to remember that you know people. And so when they need something, they're going to say, instead of just dialing for dollars, I'm going to call Luke or I'm going to call Lynn because they know everybody. And they're going to get me the right person and save me a lot of time.
So does anyone have any quick questions?
Before anybody asks questions, I want to mention that I think I scheduled this for an hour and a half just to have a couple minutes over if we needed it. But just in case it ends, we'll know I scheduled it just for an hour because we have like 2 minutes. So I just want to explain. But I know Rachel asked some questions. Rachel, I think you missed the beginning and you're going to get the replay. So I think you'll get some of your questions answered that you missed in the beginning. But Luke does have handouts on everything as well at CR2 Marketing, correct, Luke? CR2marketing.com.
It doesn't have, it's not the full presentation.
Oh, okay.
It actually has it's an outline. It's the same one I give out at the presentations. But if you actually download that, if you download my PDF outline, and then you go back through this, through the webinar when you actually get the replay, you'll actually be able to answer all the questions that are on there.
Okay.
Also, Rachel, if you actually take down my email address, if there are any questions, and this is for the entire group, if there are any questions that you have, feel free to give me an email and ask those questions directly, and then you won't have the class clown interrupting all the time. You can just get them directly from me.
It's my job.
Well, Lynn's been around the block or two for a long time. He knows what he's doing. So, oh, that's a good one. Tim Haley says, "What are your favorite questions to ask when you're first making contact at an event?"
That's really funny, Tim. Thank you very much. That's actually an awesome question. Actually, to tell you the truth, it's not rocket science. It's very easy. Very, very easy. I actually go up and I ask only one question. Based on what they say, I ask questions about them. And the question I have is, so Lynn, what do you do? Believe it or not, the person, and this is really hard for Lynn and I. It's easier for Becky, but it's harder for Lynn and I. The person that talks least is liked more by the other person. So that's why I say you only want to talk about a quarter of the time. You're going to be liked more if you talk less. And so what happens is in this situation, I say, what do you do? Let them talk and talk and talk. And guess what? They're liking you. The more they talk, the more they like you. You're building up that reputation. And so when they start talking, you go, what do you do? Well, I do this and this and this. Ask them questions that you have developed or that you can think of that might relate to your industry or just that might relate to one of your power teams. Oftentimes when people talk to me and they say, yeah, I'm doing this and this and this, I say, so what kind of strategies are you currently using to build your business? And then they start talking about that, and I go, and what kind of forms of payment do you take? Do you take cash, credit card, check? Oh, I do cash and check. I don't take credit card. Why aren't you taking credit card? Everyone's trying to go paperless as far as money goes, because we're never going to get rid of paper, but everyone's trying to go cashless. Well, that's a good point. I might want to do that. Well, that leads me into giving them an introduction to Lynn, who can actually set them up with a merchant services account. Again, it's hard to give you a list of favorite questions because you ask them questions that pertain to their business and how it might interact with your business, but you're not being pushy. You ask them questions that are coming from your field of experience that will then lead them to ask you more questions maybe later.
A little subtle take on your question, Luke, would be what brings you here tonight? Because then you're going to get what they do, but they're also going to get, you'll probably be able to gauge how experienced they are on how they answer that. So you're going to know if you've got somebody brand new that you say, well, I sell paper and office supplies, but I've never been to a networking event and yeah. So they're going to, you might get more information with something like that too. Just another one to throw out.
Actually, you will. And again, Lynn, I remember one of our favorite guys, Rachel, you'll love this. It was Cleon. Cleon uses that question about what brings you here tonight?
Yeah.
I have found mixed results in that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's great. Just understand the more experienced networkers that you have are not necessarily going to tell you what you do. They might actually say, wow, what brings me here is, Cleon does this a lot. He will go off on a complete tangent. So again, it's one of those situations that just be prepared. If you don't ask, so what do you do? Which is a very common, or, what if you say what brings you here tonight, there's a lot of possibilities. My sales
engineers would say TriMet.
Yeah. So it could be my wife kicked me out tonight, so I had no other place to go. And just remember, as much as Cleon's one of my dear friends, but he's not a business owner anymore. He doesn't have a business. So he's not really interested in people's businesses. He's interested in them as a person. So it's a little bit different.
But again, and I'm not saying anything bad about Cleon, because the man is a very good friend. But the thing is that you just have to understand that certain questions, you might want to just narrow it down, especially if you're new, narrow it down and actually do something like, so what do you do? Because that's a very common question in business and in networking, and people generally are expecting that. And so if you're new, they're going to give you their response, and then that actually starts the conversation. If you do something out of the normal, you might get out of the normal responses, and you have to be more experienced to actually be able to handle that and bring the conversation back to where you want it to be, which is about business.
Great. Well, you have some people saying this was great. Thank you very much. And obviously it's 4:04, so I did sign up for the hour and a half. So does anybody have any burning questions while you actually have Luke right there, Luke and Lynn right there in person? And feel free to ask. And if you can even probably unmute your mic if you'd like to do it that way as well.
And if you don't have a specific question, if you think of one, there's a mixer next week. You can come to and ask us in person.
Well, the thing is, we have people from...
Some of you.
Yeah, we have people from all over. So there are actually not very many people from Portland on
okay.
Now, Becky, are you saying that people can't fly to the mixer next week?
They certainly can. We'd love to have them. I'll be there. I'll be in Portland next Thursday. So, yeah. So we'll okay, Scott says thank you. So we had several thank yous. I want to thank everybody, and thank you so much for your contribution on the chat. It makes it much nicer when people are doing that, and it's a lot more fun. So I really appreciate. We had a great audience today. So everybody, give yourselves a hand. I'm going to thank Luke and Lynn and everybody who was on here. Oh, and Zoom is cool. I agree, Rachel. Yeah, it really is. So,
and thank you, Shelly. That'll be awesome. Just let Becky know when you're going to be in town, and we'll let you know which mixers are coming up or which events might be coming up. So that'll be awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and I will. Oh, and I didn't mention this. Sometime within the next 24 hours, I will be. Oh yeah, Vegas. Yeah. So we have meetups in Vegas and San Diego and different areas of the country, plus social media. We had somebody from Maryland who RSVP'd on our meetup today, and I realized, oh, she got it from social media. But you will be getting a replay of this since you're on here. So everybody will be getting a replay. And then our members will get more replays and announcements. But I want to thank everybody again. Thank you especially to Luke. I appreciate it. It was a nice presentation. So thanks, guys. And thanks, Lynn, always.
Good job.
Make it fun.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Well, I got to figure out how to end this. Bye, Ellen. Thank you.
This reminds me of the end of the Waltons back in the 70s.
I know. Good night, Mama.
Good night, John Boy.
You know what? And I forgot to record at the very beginning. So nobody has the information about I Take the Lead. And look, when you first started talking, I didn't record it. Sorry about that. I always forget.
Fine.
Yeah, but at least we don't have my cat on my chair with his tail. So bye, everybody. I'm ending it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.